Welcome back, everyone. So in the previous video, we talked about the rules for significant figures when doing single-step calculations, either adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing two or more numbers. Many times in chemistry or in science, you need to do a combination of mathematical operations. In that case, you still use the same rules for significant figures when determining how to report your final answer. You just need to be a little more careful as to when you round and when you don't. In short, you only round your final answer, so you round at the very end. What does all that mean? And how do we use these significant figure rules in multi-step calculations? So let's go ahead and do this example down here that I have in red and in blue. So if I was to ask you to calculate the answer to that expression, reporting the proper number of sig figs, these are the three steps that you would do. You would first do the steps in parentheses first, which in this case is 67.43 multiplied by 0.442. When you put that in your calculator, what comes out of your calculator is this number, 29.804. So you should write that number down as an intermediate step. And when you do that, you should take note in the correct number of sig figs for that step. You should determine the correct number of sig figs, but do not round yet. What does that mean? What that means is that for the intermediate step, write the answer down, but somehow take note as to what numbers in that intermediate step are significant and what aren't, based upon the rules for the mathematical operation. When I multiply these two numbers, 67.43 and 0.442, this first number has a total of 4 significant figures. This number has a total of 3 significant figures. So according to the rules for multiplication, because that's what we're doing here, my final answer should only have a total of 3 sig figs. So that 2, 9, and 8, those are the only significant figures for that answer. And I need to remember that, the fact that this has 3 significant figures and what those digits are. But I should not drop the 0 and the 4 yet. I should not round until the very end. So that 0 and 4 is going to carry on to when we do the calculation for the second step. But I need to somehow remind myself or make sure I remember that that 0 and the 4 are not significant. And the way that I've done that in this example and in previous examples is I have underlined the 2 digits that are not significant. So that 0 and 4 are not significant. Again, why are those not significant? It's not significant because of the rule for multiplication. But I'm not going to round yet until I get to the very end of my operation, which is that I have to take that intermediate answer and subtract 23.456. When you do that, making sure that you put in all of the digits, I have to remember the rules for significant figures for subtraction, which is I care about number of sig figs after the decimal. 23.456 has 3 sig figs after the decimal. How many sig figs does this number have after the decimal? It only has 1 digit that's significant after the decimal. Remember that 0 and the 4 are not significant based on the multiplication rules. So when I subtract these two numbers, my final answer can only have 1 digit after the decimal point, or 1 sig fig after the decimal point. So when you put that in your calculator, what comes up is actually 6.348. That 4 that's next to the 3, that's less than 5, so we don't round. So our final answer is just 6.3. So I know that's a little complicated, and in fact, I would say if you feel comfortable doing problems like this with regards to significant figures, and we'll do more examples, but if you can do a problem like this successfully, then you should have no trouble with the significant figure calculation problems that I give you on the quiz and on the exam. We will be doing many more examples though in this lecture, throughout the Chapter 2 lecture and on the Chapter 2 PowerPoint. And here are some examples right here. So here's where I'm going to stop this video. I would encourage you to try these on your own. And in giving the answer with the correct number of significant figures and rounding rules. And in the next video, we will go over how to successfully answer these 5 questions.